What can I do today to get my product, my service, that thing making the world a better place and make a profit at it? Because that's what everyone's saying, right? That's what we're all about. No, not here. Sorry, not going to work here. Here, we don't believe that's the right question. We are renegades, and we want to provoke your thoughts. We can develop the solutions to your individual challenges and take some action today that's going to drive you towards your goal. I don't know what your goal is. Tom certainly doesn't know what your goal is, but we think we have some ideas on how you might be able to take steps towards your goal. This show is where we're going to discuss it. Someone yesterday described it, Tom, as what do? We just sort of share our thoughts for 15 minutes, I think was how that person described it so beautifully.
He only watched once, so
he did. If he watched 10 times, he would know that he was absolutely right.
Correct.
That's Tom Brush. I'm Bob Graham. This is today's Antidote, and we are committed, to helping you figure this out. Whatever this is. I don't know what this is. You may not even know what this is at the moment, but my guess is if you think for a second, you have a challenge right here, right now that you are confronting, and you've got to figure it out. We want to give you some tools to figure that thing out. And today we're going to give you a really important tool, which is more discussion about accountability. So Tom, do you want to take it from there?
Sure. I don't know how many times you use the word "this" in the start of that, but I'm hoping to figure out
this in the start of that. I like that.
And I just want to say Gene and Tim hopped on. So good morning, folks. Thanks for being a part of our show today. Yeah, I think we've been talking a little bit about accountability all week. And, we touched on this a little bit yesterday about an accountability partner and what does that look like? And as I was thinking about that, part of the thing we were saying is that, you have to go out and find one. Well, sometimes actually you're given an accountability partner. It might not be of your choice, but your supervisor does eventually provide some accountability to them. You're accountable to them. How do you, this is a little bit more about how are you accountable to yourself in the actions that you do. And so I think that's the key thing that we want to talk about a little bit is how do you look for that person? What are the qualities that they should have? How can they be helpful? And then, I think tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about, the best way as an accountability partner to have conversations with your partner. But I think today it's a little bit about how do you find that partner?
So the things I look for in an accountability partner is that person who pulls me aside at the right time. So the right time, believe it or not, for me, Tom, you may or may not know this. I've never shared this with you, but after I do something, so for instance, after I lead a meeting, is the absolute worst time to talk to me about any kind of improvement.
I can believe that.
I am in that moment and I'm not ready to process to the level that I can take the feedback well. So the people I look for when I'm looking for accountability people are the ones that go, hey, I got some suggestions for you. Would you like to hear that now? Or do you want to schedule a time? I'm like, oh man, yeah, let's schedule a time. That's one of the things for me. I'm not, and Tom's looking at, I'm throwing new information at Tom. He's never heard this before. So this is good.
Well, now I feel bad that we had a conversation about it after a meeting yesterday about some feedback. So now I feel bad.
Well, but here's the interesting thing. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Could you have known that? No.
If I'd have asked.
Correct. But it's also incumbent on me as that person looking for an accountability partner to frame that discussion. Hey, sure. I want you to be this for me, and here are some of the rules that work best for me. And sometimes you have to find them. I didn't realize that about myself until a couple of years ago, and now I try to build that in. And sometimes you have to balance that. When you came to me yesterday with the information, it was fresh, and I knew you wanted to share it because it was fresh in your mind. So it's like, is this good for Tom or good for me? It's good for Tom, and I can work with this. And it wasn't like you were telling me the world was coming to an end.
Right.
And so I think that's part of what the accountability partner issue is you've got to find that person who you can marry your ideas and your thoughts with theirs, because they're the person, and I think of it a lot like a marriage. every day in my marriage is not perfect. There are days where my wife has to say to me things that she probably would prefer not to say, and vice versa. But she's willing to say them to me. And I think that's what an accountability partner does. They say, hey, I feel it's important for me to tell Tom this thing because it's a little blind spot that I bet has probably bothered him in other ways, and he's just not aware of it. And I don't do it in a, Tom, are you the dumbest guy I've ever met? It's more like, hey, Tom, can I run something by you? I was thinking about something you did. And by contrast, Tom, if you remember yesterday, we talked about another meeting we had, and you gave me feedback about that meeting later in the day. And wasn't I more receptive?
Yes. You were actually pretty receptive to the second conversation.
And it wasn't really negative.
No, it was, and I think that's the thing is accountability doesn't necessarily mean that it's on, you're just looking for the faults. You're really just looking for, sometimes accountability is as a way to celebrate.
Yeah.
You like to check in. But I think it's important that as you're looking for those people, is who are those people you can take whatever feedback, whenever they give it, and know that all they're doing is trying to be beneficial to you. That it's not a critique. It's not a, here's a, slapping you on the back just because that's what they think you want to hear. It's helpful information that you think is going to be beneficial for them as they continue to try to be more effective and achieve the goals that they want to achieve.
Another quality I look for in that person is someone who I have a good rapport with, that I like being around, because I want to be able to laugh with that person. I want to know that person. I want to understand that person, and I want them to understand me. And I'd like us to be in the same, have some commonality of what we're trying to achieve. Not that the goal has to be the same. I have an accountability partner who couldn't be more different than me, completely different than me. But we are aligned we are both trying to create something. And when push comes to shove, we have very similar values about family. We have very similar values about work. We have very similar values about what's important for a customer. And so that works really well, because I think one thing you find with people that I've heard a lot is, I can't find anyone just like me.
Yeah.
So I can't find an accountability person. That doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know that's, it could work, but it doesn't, it's not necessarily going to work. I think, to me, it's all about the way that you can have a conversation with someone. And, so it's either because if you can't accept a hard question from this person, they shouldn't be your accountability partner. If you can't have somebody come up and question you and like, Bob, why the heck did you say that? Or to say, the way you handle that conversation could have been, this is the way you might think about it in the future. So you could either take that as like, I'm digging at you, or you could take it as, let me really think a little bit about, well, what did I do? How did I do it? How maybe now do I see that their perspective of the conversation might have been different than mine, and allow it to move forward. And so I think that when you're looking for it, it's either somebody who you completely trust that they are looking out for your best interest, or someone who you have almost you have a limited relationship, and it's almost like an intentional relationship, like a coach, where you're like, I want you to tell me what I need to hear, not what you think I want to hear. Because I think if you're somewhere in the middle, you're going to be like, well, why are they telling me that? Is this something that, you're going to question yourself? You're going to start to wonder, well, do they have ulterior motives? All those other things that it's just really, so that's why it's critical to have, who are those people who you can say, yeah, I know they're only looking out for my best interest.
Right. I think that's great. Good morning, Missy. Yesterday, it's funny, after our program yesterday morning, Tom said to me, hey, why didn't you? And it was something that I could have done that I didn't do. I gave an example and he said, you had a better example. Why didn't you do this? And it wasn't like Tom was saying you're a jerk or you're an idiot. It was just, hey, you're so good at this. here's a little nudge to make you better. And that's the spirit I took it in. And that's what I like. The other thing I was thinking this morning, Tom, as I was making coffee about the accountability partners, the best accountability partner is someone who helps you become more accountable to yourself so that you start hearing the messages in your head and you start taking over that role. And you go, oh, what would Tom say to me here? Oh, he would say this. And it starts that way. And then it becomes less of Tom and more of myself. And over the course of 6 months or a year, you're not saying the same thing to me that you said to me a year ago. Like, right. You're not telling me about two people that a year ago you were telling me, don't waste your time thinking about them. Now we've gotten to a place where it's like spinning again. The system. Yeah. By the way, John Wilhelm, I got to give a shout out to John before I forget. John called me yesterday and asked me how my technology issues were. And I said, still not fixed. And he gave me yet some more suggestions and really prodded me. So that's on the book for today to fix it because it's driving me crazy. This whole quarantine will be over before I figure it out. And I'll be back in my nice office with the T1 line.
Right. And then you won't know what to do with yourselves when everything works out.
But that's also a form of accountability. John and I would not describe each other as accountability partners, but he knew that this was important to me. He saw the effects and he wanted me to be better at what I did. So he just called and said, hey, just checking in. Did you get that solved?
Yeah. Here's a great, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish.
No, I was going to say, so accountability doesn't have to be a contract signed. Someone said to me a couple weeks ago, you have an accountability partner. Where did you get the contract? And I was like, what contract? They're like, well, don't you sign something? I'm like, yeah, we signed in blood and we had this ritual and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just two people that have some sort of bond and say, hey, you know what? You might be able to help me be better, or I might be able to help you be better. Or ideally, we're both committed to each other's success.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that you can't. I mean, a coach can be an accountability person. You can. And I think that relationship is very different. That's where, you're intentional that I want you to tell me what I want to hear. Not that we're going to become lifelong friends or anything
what I need to hear. Not what I want to hear.
Sorry.
What I need to hear.
Correct.
Big difference.
Yeah, I just misspoke.
If we can get coaches who do that, I'll sign up right now.
There you go. Well, and I think it's interesting. Neil makes a really good point. He says here that it depends on what it is. If I'm dying, I might tell a coworker in conversation that they become a de facto accountability partner. However, for more serious matters, we may look for someone with more expertise or who we trust more deeply. This is exactly right. I probably have 4 or 5 accountability partners, all depending on what it is I'm trying to accomplish, because I know they know me within that space. So if I'm at the gym, my accountability partner is sometimes my wife, because she makes me go until I got to the point where I wanted to go.
Are you saying that, Tom, because she's right 4 feet away from you and she'll hear that and you'll be on her good side?
She's over there. No.
I caught you.
Lord. Back to my point.
Please, Tom.
But at the gym, it might be the person next to me and they might even know that they're my accountability, but I'm watching what they're doing and I'm like, yeah, I need to step up my game a little bit and I want to be accountable to that. Or the coach who has watched me work out could say, yeah, you need to step it up a little bit, Tom. You're kind of slacking a little bit today. And that's what I needed to hear at the moment. Now, if it's in work or business or personal, I might have someone completely different who holds me accountable because I just see them I'm in a different setting. And so they better understand that setting so they can be more effective in helping me reach my potential within that setting.
Tom, are you that guy who sees the guy next to you running at 6 miles per hour or 6 on the treadmill and you're at 5 and you step it up and kill yourself?
It depends on who the person is. But usually that drives me to try to do more. There's a guy at the gym, obviously we're not going to the gym now, but who's tall, lanky, he's a real runner.
Don't be dissing tall and lanky.
Fair. He's a real runner. Let me put it that way.
Oh, wow.
Because I've never seen you run, so I don't know. And he's probably 20 years younger than me. And so I know I can't do what he's going to do. And at the same time, I'm like, all right, if he's going to push it up, I'm going to step it up a little bit as well, because I feel like it's almost a challenge. He's holding me, not by doing anything, but just by his performance, to be more accountable to, can I do a little bit more? And I think that, again, that's why the accountability partners can show up all over the place. It's more just identifying. Sometimes it's about identifying who is driving you to be your best.
Yes.
And how does that work?
Got a couple of comments I want to get in. Tim said, timing is everything. When people are in the moment focused on something else, it's best to find a time and place where feedback can be constructively received. Amen, Tim. That goes back about 10 minutes. Another comment from Tim, more recent. Sometimes it's better to have someone with limited knowledge about the details. This way you have fewer chances to get lost in the weeds. It's more than just box checking, but having someone make sure you are indeed checking the boxes helps all by itself. I think that's a great, sometimes accountability seems like, did you do your 10 push-ups? Did you do your 12 burpees? Did you do that's not, sometimes that's where it starts.
Right.
And sometimes that's necessary. Hey, did you make your 22.37 sales calls? Did you, send out 14 LinkedIn requests? Yes. But I think it moves in the ideal situation to where it becomes more about, hey, you keep saying you want to achieve this thing. What are you doing to get there? Or how'd that meeting go? Oh, it's great. It was awesome. Oh, that's great. Tell me more.
Right.
And I think it is both sides of that equation. And also I think, and I don't think we give this enough credit, but it's also having someone to go down the road with. And I think that's really important right now, especially in this isolated situation many of us find ourselves in. Having someone that we can be honest with, be open with, express things to, and know that they're not going to say, dude, come on, enough of that. Or they may in the right situation, but they may also go, you know what? I'm going to give you the space this Thursday afternoon to be scared about making a call, about a contract being screwed up, about whatever it is. And I think that's really, it's necessary, and we don't account for that. And when we've gotten to this place of more isolation, I think the need for that kind of camaraderie and support has only grown exponentially.
Oh, absolutely. Because we don't, we're not around people as much as we typically would be. We're just around ourselves. Even Zoom calls can do it, but it's not the same. And so I think that having that interaction and those people that you can talk to and knowing what they need. The funny thing is accountability. That's what always has fascinated me about coaches, and I'm thinking more about athletic coaches. I watched my coach in high school realize that for some of us, holding them accountable was having a serious conversation or asking a couple of questions. For others, it was like they had to fire somebody up. Like they knew what each person needed to get them to where they wanted to be. And so, I think you learn over time, like, all right, I can't hold one person accountable the exact same way that I hold them accountable. I need to hold them both accountable, but there are going to be the way I do it that might be a little bit different with one than the other, just because they're going to react to it differently.
So, Tom, what fired you up? My understanding was that you would run around the field 4 times backwards and then 4 times forward, singing the fight song for Hamilton College when you were in high school, and that's what fired you up. Am I correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
I was more I was gonna show more by example. I think that was my sort of leadership style, is where I had others who were the rah-rah, usually the other captain or the other leaders of a team were the more...
Wait, were you a captain? It's like peeling an onion. It's so much fun.
I was at a tiny little high school, so there weren't a whole lot of options.
What sport was this? Lacrosse?
No.
Oh, that's right. You were in nowhere.
I was in the middle of nowhere. They didn't know what lacrosse was where I grew up.
So what sport, just so we can be clear?
Soccer, basketball, and baseball.
Oh, you were a three-sport letter guy.
I was. Again, tiny school. We had 48 in my graduating class. So
everyone was a 3. All 48 played football, right?
No football.
Even the girls.
No football. No football.
Tim writes a great comment. The look on Tom's face was priceless. Yes, it was. I love the look I get from Tom when I've gotten him to divulge something they didn't think he would ever share with the world.
Right. Well, not in this format. Let's put it that way.
And that's part of the fun of, you can see the rapport Tom and I have. And that's one of the things that makes whatever we do fun. And I don't remember ever a time I've been frustrated or angry at Tom. I've disagreed with him.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
You mean when I told you shouldn't be the smartest guy in the room?
Oh, we're going there.
Sorry.
That's why we broaden the room here, Tom, so that I can always not be the smartest.
Wasn't in this room, folks.
So we should probably get to the end of this. We've moved way off track. The internet gods have played with me. You know, they're that's what it is. I keep pushing you and they keep telling me no by making me spin. So Tom, I want to recap the important issues of today. You were a 3-sport letterman at a school with 48 graduates, presumably at least 20 of them being female. So you probably, I can't even imagine. We talked about accountability. What's the one thing someone can do that would make things better for them from a perspective of accountability today?
Yeah, I think if you feel like there's an area where you're struggling with, or you just want more support for, look for someone who understands you within that area, who can provide you with some accountability. I think that's how, and then share with them your goals. So if they know what you're trying to accomplish, it makes it a whole lot easier for them to be of how they can be helpful to allow you to do what you want to do and get the most out of what you're looking for.
Tim writes a great comment. Why do you think I'm watching at 5:30 a.m.? I'm assuming that's going back to your priceless face because he's on the West Coast. It's early on the West Coast.
Maybe it's because he's looking for accountability, that he gets up and he does this and then he moves forward.
We can only hope. I will add to your comments, Tom. I think that's great. But I would add that if you don't know where an accountability partner might lie for you, we'd love to talk to you about that. I've worked with some people on just helping them find the people in their lives that are their accountability partners. And without going too far down the road, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a way to help people with accountability that we are putting together right now that Tom and I are being accountable to each other on in the background. So that's coming. So if you're completely lost with that, don't worry. We'll get there. And with that, folks, we're going to close today's episode of Today's Antidote. I want to thank all the contributors, Neil, Tim. I see Scott liked us today, and we've got to figure out, because John told me yesterday that he can't see the comments. So I've got to figure out what's going on there. That's my accountability for today. I need to solve that by tomorrow.
Sounds good. And
all right, folks.
People can always join us in the Ring of Renegades on Facebook.
Exactly. A Facebook group. I was going to try to get through once and not pitch that, but the Ring of Renegades is growing. We had about 20 people, I think, join us yesterday, which is really great. These are the people who are going out and making a difference, who are looking for the opportunities. Tim says, a lot of good stuff here. I appreciate everyone sharing their insights. That's great. And I will tell you, one of the things I'm accountable to, believe it or not, is Tim often gives me feedback about these broadcasts, and it's great to have that accountability because he has driven us to be better at what we do, truly. So
Tim, just don't call him right after the show. He won't take it as well.
No, he texts me. I'm okay. Oh, I've done it now. Well, folks, we've learned a lot. We've scared a lot. We're moving on. Have a great day. Be healthy. We'll be back tomorrow morning.
Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.